Hey everybody! So this is going to be a short and sweet lesson talking about watercolor consistency. So I have an example here. We're going to go through how much water, how much paint makes different consistency, and then we're going to try and apply it as well. Okay, let's start. So I'm going to use just one color to make it very, very simple. I have pre-mixed some of them. So what's great to use when you're doing this exercise is a palette, a ceramic palette or a plastic one, as long as the palette is white. So the point of this is that if you can see your palette, it kind of tells you the consistency of it. This is why most palettes, just like this is why the top of this, why is this not black, right? So most area for palettes that you can see in watercolor palettes tend to be white because it's supposed to help you see transparencies. So here I have 3 different mixes. And from the right to the left, you can see that you can see just by looking at this, which one is thicker, which one is thinner, right? So of course the thinner one means I have more water in it. So the way I can see this is because I can see just slightly the base of my palette. And then the next one, I can see less of the base of my palette. And then the last one is pretty dark. So the other thing that you can tell, how you can tell different consistency, is by tipping your palette around. So you can see, if I move this palette around, how much water is this one? It's very watery. So the tea consistency is really weak and watery. So just by looking at this, you can see that, okay, that's my tea. And then the next one, called coffee, is still watery too and still kind of runny and flows like this. And then the next one from that will run a lot less. You see how it's moving in the palette, but it's moving a lot less. And it's kind of more syrupy. Right, so when it becomes more syrupy like this, it means there's a lot more pigment, there's a lot less water. So right off the bat, without you even using your brush on it to feel it in your brush, you can just look at this and see tea, coffee, and milk. So between milk and the darkest, most stickiest color, you have cream. So cream is when you just go directly with your brush right into, just pull this down. This is that color right now. Right into the palette, straight into the pan, direct pan, right? So if I put this down right here, direct from pan means it's quite thick. It doesn't have any flow. So it's very, very intense. So this violet is really intense. So beautiful color. And if I just keep going with this, just keep going intensely, doesn't change consistency whatsoever. It's very, very much, very, very opaque. So that is cream. When it's actually sticking very much into, so if you put your brush down here, it's dragging, it's not flowing whatsoever. So that is basically this consistency. So when do we use this consistency? When we actually want to add a lot of darkness in some particular area of your drawing. So we don't really use this that much. There is also actually a fifth intensity, which I'm not going to do here because we barely will ever use this. It's like a paste, so it's as if you have direct from the tube and you just slather it and you just squeeze it out right into the paper. That is that last consistency. We barely ever need to do that, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, we're going to use this box for another thing. So what I'm going to do now is go from the darkest, which is the cream. We're going to try and water it down a little bit, and water it down a lot, and then water it down extremely into the different consistency. So next one I'm going to do is just this consistency, the cream directly from the pan into your palette, and then add some water to that. And then just swirl it around and see, okay, that's still kind of syrupy. So because it's still syrupy, that would be it. Let's put it down and see. You know, this sort of thing, you're playing, right? You're learning and playing at the same time, so you never know what you get. You see how you can see that it's lighter, you can see that there's a little bit of the paper coming through, but it also doesn't move very much. It's pretty thick. So that's beautiful, isn't it? Huge difference in the color, just with a bit of water. So now I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to add some water to that mix just now. And then do a swill test. So if I swirl this around, that's definitely a lot more watery, right? So I'm going to use that next. So here you can see every time I pull my brush up, there is a lot of pooling of water. So the wateriness here is very evident. Yeah, there you go. So you can see that sometimes it does this sort of pooling. That is coffee. And then the last one would be the tea, which basically you just add a bit more water to the coffee consistency until you can basically see quite a lot of your palette. So this is tea. And in watercolor use, we normally start here. And then we gradually layer darker and darker in color. Okay, so the last box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to make a gradation from the darkest to the lightest. Wish me luck. I'm going to start at the bottom. You can start at the top or the bottom, either way is fine. So I'll start here, just with a strip. And then as I go down, I'm going to add just a bit of water to that. So this is how I add water. Just now I just dipped the tip of my brush in the water. My water is already black. And then as I go down, I push all my brush down. You can see it's getting lighter. And then now I'm going to add a bit more water to that. Right, and then I'm just going to add more water to that. And push it upwards. And then finally just clean your brush completely. And then just with the wet brush, take a little bit of that color and go to the edge. So, cream, tea. You need to practice this a lot because this is quite difficult to do right the first time. And yeah, enjoy yourself. And in the next segment, I'm going to play around with how we can apply all these. Okay.